Hi, I'm Carol Handley of 106.9, and today we are talking with author Richelle Mead, who has a big day today, has just released a new book in a series, Bloodlines, called The Indigo Spell. And thank you so much for stopping by the Warm 106.9 studios.
Thanks for letting me come by.
Yeah, we were just talking about how lucky we are to be working in such artistic fields, and you are prolific. I have been looking at the list and the timeline. You've written 7 books in the last 10 years, I believe.
More than that, actually, this is my 19th book.
Right.
I guess my first one came out in 2007, so this is the 19th
The
and
first one came out in 2007?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I'll have my 20th one out this summer.
Okay.
So it's,
Now, you're from Michigan originally, and you make your home in the Northwest now?
yep, I've been here about 10 years.
Okay. I'm thinking that our climate, of which of course we're famous for, but we're also kind of equally famous for bookshops, movie theaters, coffee shops, and all of these types of things that make for great indoor activities. And we have a lot of fabulous authors that live here. And I think, does this climate kind of help you with that at all, do you think?
I never thought about it that way, but I can see that because you do spend a lot of time inside, especially this time of the year. And I think I heard some stat just the other day, Seattle's the third most literate city.
Exactly.
Which, it makes sense. Everyone's reading, and if you aren't reading, I guess people are inside writing books like
Yeah.
me, one way or another.
And we have a
Okay.
history of some really great bookstores, and I would imagine you've probably spent some time in them.
Yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of time over at University Books in the U District, Elliott Bay, of course,
Yeah.
classic, third place. We're lucky to have a lot of independents still hanging in here, especially in this day and age, when you see them disappearing.
Absolutely, and I think that does come from that history of just having so many great bookstores, and the ones you just mentioned are probably the most famous. They've been around the longest. They've been able to hang in there the
Yeah.
longest. So let's talk about this series. Now,
Okay.
it's actually sort of two series, a little bit. So it started out with the Vampire Academy, and now we're in the Bloodline series,
Correct.
of which the Indigo Spell was just released today. Again,
Well,
congratulations.
thank you.
And so we're going to get kind of specific, but I wanted to ask you some sort of broad questions about writing a series. And one thing about this genre that I think of that reminds me so much of is about like Greek mythology. And I found it interesting that I saw that you were a comparative religion major, and was just wondering how much of that mythology plays into your thought process when writing a series.
It always does shape my thoughts. I mean, I was reading that stuff just at a very, very young age. My dad used to scour garage sales and bring me books on Greek mythology and Norse mythology, and so I just grew up having that at my fingertips. And even when I went on to study it in a more academic contexts, just the whole idea of that sort of otherworldly quality to our own world.
Yeah.
It's just always kind of been kicking around in the back of my brain, and so it definitely lends itself well now to writing books like these.
I could completely see that. And when you approach a series, you have it sort of mapped out, or do you just start with your characters and let them take you where they go?
They have a thing with authors. They call them plotters and pantsers. Have you heard that?
No.
People who plot or write by the seat of their pants, as far as what you were just asking. And I'm in the plotting category. So I usually have to know where I'm going. I know all the big beats in a series. I know where the series will end. And if it's going to have, say, 6 books, I know, okay, at the end of this book, this is the big thing that's moving the series along. I don't always know all the little details. A lot of those come along the way, but I usually do have a pretty good grip on it. So, I know authors who do exactly that. They wait. They let the characters just give them directions, and I guess I have to run a tighter ship than that. I give the orders. I tell them where we're going, but everyone's got their own way, and I've seen books born of all different methods.
Yeah, I like that. That's a great way to put it. Um, I'm going to get down to some more specific questions. Now that we are in the third installment of Bloodlines, as we say, the Indigo Spell that is released today. And will there be 6 like there was in the Vampire Academy?
Yep, that's the plan.
Okay.
So we're at the midpoint now.
She has a plan. She's already mentioned she has a plan. So when you originally created the character of Sydney Sage and the Vampire Academy series, did you have an idea that she would have her own series? When you say you're plotting, you were saying you knew you had a jump off point. So did you have her in mind in taking in?
I knew she would be back for the spin-off series. I didn't actually expect her to have as big a role as she ended up having. There's a few different characters from the first series that I had planned to transplant into their spin-off, and I originally was going to do this kind of multifaceted third-person POV, switching between all these different characters sort of model. But as I started working on it, it was just so complex and weighted down that I decided to lighten it and just make one character sort of the focus and follow their story. And Sydney was the one who won out. So I hadn't expected that she would become such a star. I had known she'd play a role,
Yeah.
but it ended up, I think it was just a great call for me because she's such a different character than the first one's protagonist, who is this kind of rebel, warrior girl in training who punches first and she'll ask questions later. And Sydney's a thinker. She's an academic, and to be able to just flip into such a totally different voice it's great for me. It's a challenge, which I like to do, and so it's fun to have a whole different perspective. And she's also human, which gives us kind of this outsider's view now on the world, because in Vampire Academy, Rose, the protagonist, she was half vampire. So she's coming from this fantasy world where it's totally normal to do all this stuff, these nocturnal schedules and blood, that's life.
Right.
But when you look at it from a human's point of view, you're like, oh yeah, that's really not actually a normal thing. And so I think it's fleshed out the world more now to have these two different people telling us about it. So it worked out well, I think.
Excellent. When you are plotting, I'm now thinking of your brain working all the time.
Well, not that much.
Yeah. And again, because it sounds like obviously part of it too is that the characters do take you where they're going to take you. Because
Yeah.
the voice changed, as you say. Is there a favorite chapter that you were looking forward to, and then did it stay that way, or?
In the Indigo Spell?
Yeah.
Most, I think, turned out the way I had hoped. I always love the endings because those are the parts I do know for sure, going back to this. I sound like such a master, like, all this planning and plotting I do. But, I do have it so crystallized in my head how each book is going to end. And so when I get to those chapters, they just write themselves almost because I've been thinking about them for so long. Whereas some of the other book, you're still kind of, until you're in that moment, you don't really know how it's going to pan out. So it's just a joy to actually have something be just play out exactly the way you had hoped.
So it's the last part that you look forward to?
I do, actually.
Yeah.
And I just finished the book that comes after this now, The Fiery Heart. And that was hard, slugging away through the middle, kind of putting all this plot together. And then I hit those last 4 chapters, the big climax ending. And it's just like, it's a snowball. It just goes, and it's so fast. And it's great when you reach that point, and then just to sit back and be like, oh, there we go.
It feels joyous to me that when you're getting to that point of being able to just write and write and write.
It is. It's a good feeling when you want to write, because there are days when it's a job and you're just like, oh man, I gotta, toss some words out on the page. And when you are in those points where it's just, I just love putting these things on the page, that's great. I mean, we all want to love our jobs.
Right. So 19 books since 2007. How long does it take to, on average, I realize that some may be easier than others, but on average, how long does it take?
I usually can knock out a first draft, emphasis first draft, in 2 months. And then we may have another 4 months of revising and editing it with my publisher. And then there's usually about 3 months of lead time that they need for marketing and printing and all the stuff. So a book's life, it's usually about 9 months is about what it comes out to. It's like a child.
Yeah. Or a lot of musicians that I know, actually, by the time their music is out there and they're now promoting it, they've actually written a whole new album.
Yeah.
And your
always in the
mind is
future.
here, and you're talking about something you did in the past as something that's fresh for everybody else.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's sort of what I'm experiencing today. Everyone is so excited to finally have this book
Yeah.
out. And I was just telling you, I turned in the next one, and that's where my head is at right now.
Right.
And I keep thinking, oh, let's talk about that, but people are still
Right.
one book behind me. So.
Yeah, because you're publishing a couple a year, 1 or 2 a year.
Yeah.
And so you have as we say, the Indigo Spell came out today, and then you already have a fall release plan for your next one.
Yeah, for the next. Yep.
Goodness gracious, we're getting way too ahead of our people though, because they really want to know about the Indigo Spell. And so I have some more questions about the Alchemists. The characters seem to be like a group of people that have very strong beliefs about how vampires kind of evil. How did they kind of overcome that belief system and to be able to work with the Morai?
Well, I wouldn't say they have overcome those
Okay.
beliefs exactly. We see there's still a lot of prejudice amongst these humans towards vampires and the supernatural. It's almost a lesser of evils route in their minds, which is they realize they can't get rid of vampires. Would they like to? Probably, but they can't. There's too many of them. It's too difficult, and so that's why they've sort of opted for this. I always joke it's the Men in Black kind of route, where let's just pretend they don't exist. Let's cover it up, keep them away from
Right.
from normal humans, so that they don't know that all of this paranormal nonsense is going on. And so it's kind of like they've steeled themselves up and put aside their beliefs, even though they're still very much there for a lot of the alchemists, in order to do what they see as this greater, higher calling for the good of humanity and our souls.
The Men in Black. I think that's a good comparison. I think everybody would understand that. Now, Sydney has the ability to do magic, and do all the alchemists have the ability?
No, that is just her, and it's kind of secret because again they've got these kind of harsh ideas about the supernatural. So to find out one of their own was practicing in it would be a pretty big deal, and not a good deal at that. And so that's why she's kind of keeping this in the shadows, that she's developed this ability.
Okay. And Marcus Finch, he's still a little bit of a mystery here. How big of a role is he going to be playing in the series moving forward?
He's kind of in a side role. And he is one of the places where the plan did not actually work. That I keep touting. I originally had him. Well, he's in there as sort of this rebel faction leader, and he does that job regardless. He's fine doing that. But I had also thought I could build another love triangle, because everyone loves those, and I could make him sort of a competitor for Sydney's affections. But as I started writing it into the Indigo Spell, it just rang hollow to me. I didn't buy it, and if I'm creating it and I don't even believe it, then I know readers aren't, and Sydney certainly wasn't. And so I actually had to dial his character back and just make him this kind of kooky, moralistic, idealistic guy who wants to save the world. Which again, it's a cool role to play, but I did have to completely restructure how I thought this book would go. And I think that's fine, because I think sometimes love triangles are overdone. Not everyone has their heart in conflict. Sometimes you just know, and there they are, and it's that
Right.
simple. Well, and as simple as it ever is, I guess.
As it ever is. Okay, the last few books of the vampire series, Rose was either out of the country, she was flying around, kind of on the run. Will the Bloodlines characters get away from Palm Springs?
They will, actually, yes. So see, now I got to shift my brain out. Fiery Heart which is the next book, has some travel in it, and then we'll find a large part of the last two books are very much away from Palm Springs. So it is actually kind of like the Vampire Academy series parallels the movement a lot like that. And I think that in some ways ties into the plot, because I find with series, I like to start the first couple. We establish our status quo. Here's life. Here's where we're at. And then as you go throughout the series, you just start tearing it apart and turning it on its head, especially in the third and fourth books. And so, maybe it's just for me to do that. I also have to pull them out of their comfort zone and send them in places. But that's happened in both series now.
I love the idea of vampires in Palm Springs.
Well, that's it is goofy, and that's the whole point, is because one of them is trying to hide out there, and so where's the last place you would look for a vampire in a desert city? And so that's part of the logic to it. Although they're all a little miserable there because they don't like the sun.
Right. And do you go yourself?
I have never been to Palm Springs, and this is a first, because most of my series, I really try to make it a point that the the home base of a series is in a place I have been. You can be an armchair scholar, and in the age of the internet, we can all do a fine job, but I think it's nice if you've been on the ground and you can actually have that insight. Unfortunately, with Bloodlines, I wasn't able to do that. I wrote it when I was, the first book, when I was pregnant with my son, and my travel, just dropped considerably, so I was never able to do any scouting trips down there.
Right.
I have a friend who lives down there, so she feeds me info,
Right.
and again, the almighty internet always
Yeah.
comes through for us.
Well, it's funny because a lot of us here from the Northwest, like to go to sunny places in the middle of the year, and I know a lot of people go to Palm Springs.
Really, I would
Yeah.
love to. I'm sure it'd be great, especially this time of year for us.
Yeah.
Would be.
I have the weather app on my phone dialed into Palm Springs. Every once in a while, I'll just look and go,
Does it
it's
make you,
82 there today.
does it make you sad when you're 40s and rain here?
Yeah, I know I'm a native. So I can get through it for a long time. But every once in a while, like anybody else, Palm Springs or Hawaii.
Yeah.
I think about Hawaii a lot. Now, a lot of your readers and our listeners are going to be in anticipation of the, speaking of relationships, the Sydney-Adrian relationship, which I believe some are calling Sidran.
Sidrian, yes.
Sidrian. Anything you can share without giving too much away?
Well, I'll say quick as an aside. If someone had told me 5 years ago I would have characters who became like a power couple, a nickname, like what Bennifer and all of those, I
Right.
never envisioned that would be happening to me. So I was surprised when suddenly Sidrian became a household name amongst my readers. What's happening with them? Yeah, that is hard to say without giving things away. I think a lot of people are going to be happy with the way their relationship develops. I'll say that much. Certainly makes some positive strides in this book. But I think people have to be ready that whenever a couple is happy in my series, it doesn't stay that way for long. So you have to brace. People have to brace themselves that there's 3 more books to come,
Right.
and bad things happen to nice people in my series, unfortunately, because I guess they're in, there's the conflict. That's why we read them and do all that. So they've got some real high points coming. A lot of people who've read this book already, The Indigo Spell, were excited because they are saying it's the hottest of my young adult books. So
Yay.
you can, make of that what you will. And I think Fiery Heart will surpass it. So I hope people are excited about that, and that it will help
Yeah.
them forgive me for any mean things I have to do.
For any mean things that you have to do.
Yeah.
So do you think there may be a place for another Vampire Academy after Bloodlines?
I would like to do more in this world. I'm kind of just deciding what shape that'll take. There's I think there's a line artists and their followers dance upon, which is, as someone who creates things, you always want to do something new and different to test yourself, but at the same time, your fans, I guess, they love a certain thing. And so Bloodlines was nice in that it allowed me to take a different direction in this world, but still let my readers stay in this world. And so I'm kind of trying to think, what's the same thing? What's going to keep me interested for the next step, but isn't going to completely cut my readers off from what they love. So I don't know. I could go back to the characters from the first series, or I could just make a whole new spin-off with some other side character. I don't know, but gives me new insight now into my friends who are always bitter about rock bands, oh, I like the first album better. Why'd they have to go start doing this experimental stuff? I understand that now as someone who does this. I'm like, well, you get tired doing the same old thing. So so hopefully my fans will hang in there with me, whatever I do.
That makes sense. You grow as a writer and want to add some depth or go in different directions. That makes sense.
You do. I mean, at the same time, though, when you do have a world that's so fully fleshed out like this one,
Right.
it is great to still be able to play in it and do things with it. So.
And when you perform them live, you have to pull out the greatest hits. Remember that. Always play the greatest hits amongst the new stuff. So, as we were talking about very early on, I want to talk a little bit more about the making of the movie.
Yes. Big news in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So congratulations. You're looking at a release a year from now, basically. What can you tell us?
So they're currently projecting February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Yay.
Get your dates ready, 2013 for the release. And the people working on it are just phenomenal. There's Mark Waters, who was the he's so Mark Waters and Daniel Waters. They're brothers, and they're known for respectively directing Mean Girls and writing Heathers, which to me are just two just
Great.
pinnacle teen films. And so the fact that they're on board is pretty awesome to work on that. And they've cast the three principal roles from the series now. They're experienced, but they're newish actors, except for the male lead, who is actually a huge up-and-coming star in Russia. So he's new to us, but not so much to them. And so that's the biggest news right now is the creative team behind it. It's going to be distributed by the Weinstein Company in the U.S., which was another big
That is excellent.
thing to just come out.
Yeah.
And now we're just waiting for the next thing, which they're supposed to start filming this summer.
And will you be involved with the screenplay part of that, or?
No, I mean, I've seen the screenplay. They
Okay.
asked me, my thoughts on it, and
Right.
it was really great. You could definitely tell the dark comedy background that this is coming from. But very often, an author, when you sign the movie rights, you have to sort of take a deep breath and accept that you have sort of turned the creative control over to another team,
Right.
because they're different mediums, writing books and creating movies, and I'm content to let them kind of do their thing. I'm lucky though that they do keep me involved with stuff like this. They let me see the script and ask my opinions, and they showed me some of the headshots of the actors before they were cast. Just what do you think? And the final control is theirs, of course. But the fact that I am this involved is just really wonderful, because I know there are situations where the writers are just gag order, stay away, you can
Right.
come to the movie, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so they're so wonderful. They're open with me, and they toss around their ideas. And
You think you
been
might
fun.
spend a little time on set?
I would love to. I hope if they'll let me. If I'm not a nuisance, I'd love to go see it in action.
Yeah.
Friends of mine who wrote Beautiful Creatures, which is coming out this weekend, they just went through all of this in the last year, what I'm about to do. And one of those authors, Margaret Stoll, was telling me that when you do that set visit, that is just like, there you are. You just walked into the world from your
Yeah.
books, and that's like just the real kind of game changer there as far as when it all becomes real. So
I bet.
I hope they let me come.
That's exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is so excellent. Do you, obviously, hopefully, the movie would be the first of at least a trilogy. Is that the hope?
Well, hopefully more than that, because of the way that first series goes, because it's 6 books.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you're going to do more than one, you really should do them all, because they're just so like the third one ends on a terrible cliffhanger. So it would be mean to do a trilogy. So they either need to do just one and stop and spare people the heartache, or they got to go the whole way. They got to sign in for
Right.
the long haul.
Do they ever morph a couple books into one in a film?
They do sometimes, and they could do that, certainly.
Yeah.
I think there'd be a big fan outcry if they did, but again, going back to what I said, movie making is a different art, and you do different things with the material. That could be a more realistic possibility if they weren't sure they could do all 6 books, and go in that way. So I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
What they'll do. Everyone's just trying to get this first book off the ground, and hopefully, if that's successful, they'll just keep making them.
Excellent. You were talking earlier about writing in this particular genre. Are there other genres that you look forward to having time to get into writing?
Yeah, I mean, I love all things kind of fantasy, sci-fi, and so it'd be fun to do things with those. I actually do have a new adult series coming out this summer. The first book is called Game Board of the Gods, and it's kind of a soft sci-fi. It's set in the future, and has some supernatural elements blended with the sci-fi aspect, and so that's fun because I am a big sci-fi lover, and I've always wanted to foray into there and just see where that goes. And so it's actually I'm kind of lucky in this aspect to have these two series kind of dueling because this kind of is my experimental series. Now, I mentioned before that, oh, do you take the risk? Do you deviate from what your fans love? And so I have the luxury now of this new series coming out this summer where I can kind of do that. But then we've got our kind of stable fallback here too.
How old is your son?
He's a year and a half.
Where do you find the time to do all this?
Well, he goes to daycare, and so I have to. It's a job. You have to think in an 8 to 5 context.
Yeah.
It's not like the days of my youth 3 years ago,
Right.
where if you didn't finish a book, you just worked all night or did this
Yeah.
or you got away for the weekend to finish it. With him, it's time management takes on a whole new meaning. So even right now, being here with you, he's in daycare. I have to get everything done because when I pick him up, it's him. That's the whole
Yeah.
household suddenly starts revolving around him again.
Sure.
And if I didn't get my work done, well, that was my own fault. So it's definitely been a whole new experience for me. It's made me more responsible in more ways than one. Just when you have to answer to another person and
Yeah.
not your own whims.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Congratulations again, especially today for the day that the Indigo Spell is released. I know that you're going to be signing tomorrow at the University of Washington bookstore,
Yep.
the one on the Ave.
Yep, the one on the Ave, 7 p.m. So
Okay.
I'll do a reading from the book and do some Q&A. So if people have burning questions, I can do that, and then we'll have some giveaways, and then finally we'll sign some books.
Oh, great. And you have an ongoing relationship, as you said, with the bookstore. And I know that you personally sign things even if people buy them online.
They're very near and dear to my heart. When my first book came out in 2007, which was an adult book called Succubus Blues, I went in, introduced myself to their sci-fi guy, and he didn't know who I was, but he said, "Sure, we'll do a signing for you." And we had
Nice.
20 people, at least half of which were my friends and family. But I think it was just so great of them to give me that chance. And so since then, I've just held on to a really good relationship with them. And now they see the rewards of that. And
Yeah.
so aside from just we get much bigger turnouts now at my signings, I also do this mail order system for them, where people can order my books off their website. Every couple weeks, I come in, autograph it, personalize it, whatever people want, and then they ship them out around the world. And so
That's nice.
it's been a good business for them, I know for sure.
Yeah.
And then it's also nice, I think, for my readers because, first of all, not everyone can get to a book signing, and I can't get to every place to sign books. And so if people want a birthday present or something like that, it's nice that we can do this for them.
Absolutely. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming by. We look forward to the movie. We're marking it on our calendars, Valentine's Day 2013.
That's right. How's that for timing?
Yeah, excellent. Continued success to you.
Right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming.